Hello, I am N. Kripa, Assistant Professor, Department of Biomedical Engineering from Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research, Chennai 73. We are going to see the course Biosensors and Measurements. And the topic we are going to cover is standard measurements and errors. Measurement is being used globally. Whichever quantity we are going to measure, measurement is very, very essential. Either it may be physical, electrical, or electronic quantities. Let us see how this measurement is being useful in instrumentation field. So, a measurement can be defined as a process of empirical but objective assignment of number of properties of objects or events of the real world in such a way as to describe them. In short, measurement is nothing but quantifying an event or a thing. Measurement is made by comparing unknown quantity with predefined standards. The need or purpose of measurement is to understand an event or an operation, to monitor an event or an operation, to control an event or an operation, to collect data for future analysis, to validate an engineering design. Hence, measurement are indispensable application for identifying the parameters of a system, in eliminating the performance of a system at a process, discovering, formulating a statistical law, and controlling a process or an event. This is the basic instrumentation system of a measurement system, which includes an input and an output. So, input is usually the true value of variable, and output will be the measured quantity. So, for example, if you are giving a pressure as input, the output will be the value of the pressure which is being given. If speed is given as an input, the output value will be the measuring value of the speed. This is the block diagram of a measurement system. The various functions of a measurement system can be represented in this block diagram. Please refer to the block diagram which I have given below. So the sensors takes the measuring quantity either from the body or from the external environment, which is in turn given to the transducer, which in turn is given to the signal conditioner, and then it is given to data presenting devices like display units, recording systems, or transits, that is, transmitting the data. So these are combinedly called as data presenting devices. So we can see each one of these units one by one briefly. So the first functional block of the system is the sensor. The sensor is the element which is in contact with the environment or in the body. So it detects the changes or events which has been happening. It can be either normal or abnormal also. So a sensor's sensitivity indicates how the sensor's output changes when the quantity being measured changes. Some of the examples are ultrasonic sensors, accelerometers, IR sensors, gas sensors, and so on. Many other sensors are available in the market nowadays. The next functional block diagram is transducer. A transducer produces an output signal which is a function of the measured quantity. The input signal quantity may be temperature, flow, speed, vibrator, etc. The output signal may be a voltage, current, or air pressure. For example, a strain gauge connected with a Wheatstone bridge convert strain into voltage. Here, the strain gauge is called a strain, and the strain gauge along with the Wheatstone bridge is called a transducer. A sensor is an element which detects the changes. It simply changes its character when an input quantity undergoes a variation. The strain gauge, bridge unit, current, and voltage circuit put together is called a transducer. The next functional block diagram of the system is signal conditioning unit. The signal conditioning modifies the output of the transducer into a convenient form so that it can be further presented. The conditioning of the transducer output signal may be include one of the following. Either it can be an amplification, demodulation, filtering, impedance modeling, linearization, analog and digital conversion, isolation, range matching, etc. For example, a low pass filter allows only low frequency content of the signal. The last block of this functional block of the system is data presenting devices. So here the data presenting device presents the measured quantity to the observer. The data can be presented by any one of the following ways. Analog indication by means of deflection of a pointer, digital indication using display like LCD, LED, etc. Recording the variation of signal as a function of time, totalizing the signal over a period of time, interfacing with a computer or a controller for further processing. Next, we can see about the units and standards. So, a unit, the standard measure of each of the kind of physical quantity, is called a unit. A unit can be broadly classified as functional unit and derived unit. Units which are fundamental to most of the other physical quantities are called fundamental units. They are like length, mass, time, electric current, temperature, and luminous intensity. All other units which are expressed in terms of fundamental units are called derived units. Example like velocity can be given as distance traveled by time. So these are all the important system of units which is being followed worldwide. The important system of units are FPS, foot, pound, second, CGS, centimeter, gram, second, MKS, meter, kilogram, second, rationalized MKSA system, which is meter, kilogram, second, ampere. So in India, we are following MKS system, which is meter, kilogram, seconds. The classification of standards. There are many kinds of classification of standards. So standards are classified by their function and application as follows. The first one is international standards. International standards are standards which is accepted internationally or globally. They represented certain unit of measurement which are very close to the maximum possible accuracy, which is attainable by the current technology of production and measurement. These standards are maintained by an International Bureau of Weights and Measures at sensors near Paris, France. And this is their symbol or emblem. The next second classification of standards is primary standards. It is maintained by National Standards Laboratory in different parts of the world. Each country has its own primary standard laboratory. In India, National Physical Lab at New Delhi is responsible for maintaining these primary standards for various fundamental units. These standards verify and calibrate the secondary standards, and this is their emblem. The third is secondary standards, and these are the basic reference standards which is available in different laboratories. These are maintained by particular lab and are easily accessible to the measurement engineers. It is also useful for research purposes also. The fundamental standardization and SI unit. So, what is an SI unit? SI unit is nothing but the, the International System of Units. It's a simple scientific method of expressing the magnitude or quantities of important natural phenomena. These are 7 basic units in the system from which other units are being derived. So here we have given the chart of fundamental standards of SI units for the 7 systems. So length L, which is unit is meter and the symbol is M. Mass M, which is the unit is kilogram and symbol is kg. Time T, which the unit is second and symbol is S. Electric current I, its unit is ampere and symbol is A. Temperature T, unit is Kelvin, symbol is K. Amount of substance, which unit is mole, symbol is mole. And luminous intensity, the unit is candela and the symbol is CD. So we can see each one of the fundamental standards in a brief manner. So the first one is kilogram. So kilogram is basically a 1 kg. It is the SI unit of mass. It is denoted as K, which is the mass of a platinum iridium cylinder, which is presented at the International Bureau of Weights and Measures in Paris, France. As you can refer with the diagram, this is a 1 kilogram of platinum iridium cylinder. So it is kept with preserved in a 3 glass containers, and originally 1 liter of water is also equal to 1 kilogram, and as it has been so many years of preservation, 50 micrograms of weight is being said to be reduced from this 1 kilogram of platinum iridium cylinder. So the composition will be platinum 90% and iridium 10%. And it was first started to be preserved from 1889. The second fundamental standard is the meter. So it is the ISI unit of length, and meter is which materially responsible distance between two lines engineered in a platinum iridium bar, which is also presented in France. So as you can see, this is the 1 meter distance platinum iridium rod or bar. So it can also be told as compared to length that travels in a vacuum in 1 by 299,792,458 of a second. Next is the fundamental standards of seconds. So fundamental unit of time is second. So in past, 1 by 86,400 of a mean solar day has been defined as a second. So the solar day is the time interval between two successive transits of the sun across the meridian of the earth. So the current definition of the standard second is the interval of time corresponding to 9,192,631,770 cycle of the atomic resonant frequency of cesium-133 atom. So the next fundamental standard unit is Kelvin. The SI unit of thermodynamic temperature is Kelvin. The magnitude of the Kelvin has been fixed by defining the thermodynamic temperature of triple point of water at exactly 273.16 Kelvin. So the triple point of water is the temperature at which the solid, liquid and vapor phases of water are in equilibrium. Next, the fifth fundamental unit is the ampere. So the SI unit of current is ampere. It is defined as the current which when passed through a solution of silver nitrate causes deposition of silver at the rate of 1.118 ng per second. The next fundamental unit is candela, the SI unit of luminous intensity. The primary standard of luminous intensity is derived from full radiator of the temperature of solidification of platinum. The candela is then defined as 1/60th of the luminous intensity per square centimeter of the full radiator. So here is this artifact is 500-watt gas with lamp which is being used first, but now it is not being used. So the last SI unit or fundamental standard unit is mole, the SI unit of material quantity. It is defined as exactly 6.022140 into 10 to the power of 23 particles. Example like atoms, molecules, ions, or electrons. So this number was chosen so that the mass of 1 mole of chemical compound in grams is numerically equal to arranged mass of 1 molecule of the compound. So next we can see the various methods of measurement of the system. So the methods of measurement can be broadly classified as direct comparison method, indirect comparison method, deflection and null method. So we will see each of these methods one by one. The first is direct comparison method. In direct comparison method, the unknown quantity is compared directly with the primary or secondary standards. The primary standards are maintained by National Standard Laboratory at different parts of the world for various quantities like length, mass, time, current, voltage, temperature, luminous intensity, etc. The secondary standards are the task of referring the standards initially and it is used in industrial measurement laboratories and in research laboratories. The second is indirect comparison method. In indirect comparison method, the unknown quantity is compared with the standard or a meter which is compared and other with the primary or secondary standards which are kept at national laboratory periodically. See, for example, an unknown voltage is measured using a voltmeter, which is periodically calibrated with primary or secondary standards. it is very difficult to compare the unknown quantity directly with primary or secondary standards. So most of the measurement are done by the indirect method only. The next is deflection method. It's another way of classifying the methods of measurement, just based on the principle of operation. So your deflection and null method. In deflection method, let us consider two permanent magnets which has been kept, and on the middle a spring has been kept. From the spring, a deflecting pointer slides on a scale. So the deflection method of measurement, the unknown quantity causes a deflection or a mechanical displacement on a calibrated scale. So in this process, a permanent magnet moving coil, a spring attached with a pointer is placed in between the permanent magnet and current carrying moving coil. So now what happens when force is being applied on this deflection? There will be a deflection in the pointer. The quantity can be measured, produced an effect either in the form of voltage or current. So it produces torque because of the mechanical deflection. The spring system increases with increase in deflection. So the torque is formed, which is proportional to the current. The effect of the unknown quantities belong by the application of another effect. So this is called the null method. So the effect of the unknown quantity is balanced by the application of another effect, so as to maintain the deflection which is being caused by the difference between the effect is zero. So here, for example, we have taken a potentiometer which has been connected with the galvanometer. So the potentiometer here, the Ex is unknown. The null detector is the galvanometer where deflection is proportional to the unbalanced EMF. That is the difference between the EMF, EAB, across the portion of the AB of slide, which and the unknown EMF Ex as shown in both are equal. So Ex is equal to EAB, which is directly indicated by the measuring scale. The advantage of this null method is that it has high accuracy, and also the unknown quantities compared with the source. The detector need not to be calibrated here, and the measuring quantities are also not altered. So these are all some of the advantages of using the null method. So next is error measurement or error analysis. So now we have done the measurement. Any kind of measurement if we do, there will be always errors in that. Some errors can be eradicated, some others can be minimized, but errors could not be totally vanished. So here also in instrumentation, we have errors, and how we are going to measure, we will be seeing it. So the measurement cannot be made without errors. These are only be minimized but not eliminated completely. So it is essential to know the different errors that can possibly be in the measurement system. So the errors can be that taken as the it can be minimized in a minimal form. So the output which you are getting is but the 100% output is called the true value. But the true value 100% could be attained only in theoretical form. It could not be attained when we are doing the experiments. So 100% is a true value. This value can be described as the expected value of the true value, which can be established by taking numerous calculated values throughout the experimentation. So types of errors, there are different types of errors. So errors can be described as gross errors, systematic errors, and random errors. Even in systematic errors, again it has been differentiated into instrumentational errors, environmental errors, static errors, and dynamic errors. So we will see each one of these errors one by one in a brief manner. So first is your gross error. So this gross error is nothing but when human beings are involved in the measurement, gross errors will be inevitably be committed. So gross errors are due to human factors such as misreading of instruments, then incorrect adjustment and improper application of instruments. So complete elimination of gross error is probably very impossible in analog meters. So these are all the errors can be reduced by zero adjustments before starting the experiment, by taking number of readings of the same quantities, and by taking number of readings of same quantities by number of observers, that is person. So it is recommended to take at least 3 separate readings at different times. So the next error is systematic error. So systematic errors are due to shortcomings of the instrument and changes is external condition affecting the environment. So they are classified into two types. One is instrumentational error. So this instrumentational error arises due to changes in the properties of the components used in the instrument. This can be attained by calibrating the instrument frequently. The second is environmental error. These arises due to change in environmental conditions such as temperature, humidity, pressure, electrostatic fields, or electromagnetic fields. It can also be avoided or minimized by controlling the environmental conditions in the laboratory. So systematic error are also classified as static and dynamic error. So the static, it is defined as the algebraic difference between the values which indicated by the output of the measuring system or transducer of the true value of the quantity presented to the input. So this type of error can be cleared by the limitation of measuring devices. So here dA is equal to AM minus AT, where dA is the static error, AM is the measured value, and AT is the true value. The last one is dynamic error. It is defined as the algebraic difference between the indicated or recorded value of the measurement and its true value any in instant when the measurement is in the function time. Dynamic error has two components. The first one is transient error, steady state error. So it is caused by the instrument the due to the slow response in the following changes the measurement variable. The last one is random errors. These errors are due to sources that cannot be specified for the effect with at certainty of the measurement value. So statistical method or analysis of the large number of measured values are to be undertaken to avoid this kind of errors. So now what are the ways to reduce this kind of measurement errors? So first we have to double check all the measurements for accuracy. Next, we can double check the formulas which is correct or wrong. Next, we have to make sure the observers and measurement takers are well trained. Then make the measurement with the instrument that has highest precision. Then take the measurement which is under controlled condition. The next is pilot testing of the measuring instruments. And the last is to use multiple measures for the same construct. So by these ways, we can reduce and minimize the measurement errors. So now in this course, we would have seen how all the measurement is being done and what and all its types and how errors are being made in the measurements and what and all the kind of errors was there. Thank you.